As the SUV trend began to take off in the 90s, Honda realized it was time to jump on the bandwagon, and so in 1994 they released the first Passport in the US. But the Passport wasn't a Honda at all, it was a rebadged Isuzu Rodeo. In 1997, Honda released the CR-V, technically their first in-house SUV, but being a compact crossover based on the Civic platform, there was still a spot in the product line for something larger, something with at least a V6 and 3 rows of seating. The rebadged Rodeo continued to cover this gap in Honda's product line until 2002, when Honda was finally ready to release a mid-size SUV of their own. Honda doesn't really do full-size, unless you count that time they rebadged a Land Rover Discovery. So meet the Honda Pilot. It's a great vehicle. It's a good vehicle. It's the worst vehicle Honda's ever made. There's some truth to all of those statements, so let's dive in and take a detailed look at the Honda Pilot. On sale for the 2003 model year, Honda was keen to capitalize on the SUV craze that was taking over America. Honda's reputation was pretty high in the early 2000s, and families were excited at the prospect of Honda reliability in an SUV that could carry the whole family. So it was no surprise it sold pretty well in its first model year, with over 150,000 of them hitting US streets from late 2002 through 2003. The Pilot is really more about function over form, so the design is somewhat boxy, but this gives it very good vision and good interior room. The Honda Pilot seats 8 passengers, with the rear 2 rows both 60/40 folding benches to help you accommodate whatever ratio of cargo and passengers you might be hauling. The third row isn't particularly roomy for adults though, so it's probably best to put the kids back there. When the seats are folded down, you have a very flat cargo floor, so you can really get a lot of stuff loaded in these things. The Pilot initially came in 2 trim levels, LX and EX, and even LX models have rear climate vents with their own controls. On EX models, you get an automatic climate control system. Over the LX, EX models also adds body-colored mirrors and side moldings, roof rails, standard keyless entry, alloy wheels, a 7-speaker audio system with a doubled-in CD player cassette combo, steering wheel audio controls, a power-adjustable driver's seat, extra pockets on the seat backs, and 9 cup holders instead of just 7. Hi, I'll take 9 venti caramel frappuccinos, please. Okay, coming up. You must have the whole family in there with you. No, it's just me. Oh, can I get a name for the drinks? Derek. And the next name? Derek. Derek on all of them. EX models can also be equipped with an optional leather interior, and there's a navigation option or a rear entertainment system option. If you get the rear entertainment system, you will get 3 headphone jacks with individual volume controls and RCA inputs on the back of the center console. The initial engine for the Pilot is the J35A4, a 3.5-liter V6 which makes 240 horsepower and 242 pound-feet of torque. The transmission is exclusively a 5-speed auto, and for the first few model years at least, all Pilots use Honda's VTM4 all-wheel drive system. This system will not only automatically send power to the rear wheels when it detects slippage, but it also proactively sends some power to the rear wheels when accelerating in an effort to stop traction loss before it occurs. Additionally, if you're in a situation where you are stuck, or if you're in deep snow or super slippery terrain, a button on the dash can lock the rear diff to get you out of those extremely sticky situations. This feature will only work in first, second, and reverse gears, and only at speeds up to 18 miles an hour. Once you exceed 18 miles an hour, the lock will automatically disengage. 4-wheel disc brakes with ABS is standard. For 2004, heated front seats and side view mirrors are added to the leather package. They also added more adjustments to the second row seats, and they also now slide more forward to allow for easier access to the third row. For 2005, the engine is updated to the J35A6, which puts out 255 horsepower and 250 pound-feet of torque. The throttle cable leaves the chat as this engine is now drive-by-wire. The 4th and 5th gear ratios were revised in order to facilitate smoother shifting, and the Pilot gets a new fuel tank, which increases range by about 40 miles. They also added a power moonroof, VSA, and brake assist to the leather package, which from here on out is referred to as its own EXL trim. This is also the first year Pilots came with tire pressure sensors. For 2005, they also changed the steering wheel, added a driver's footrest, and integrated the key and remote into one horribly designed key fob held together by one tiny screw that always breaks. 2006 is the cosmetic refresh year. There's a slightly different grille, new quad-looking headlights with projector housings for the high and low beams, a side marker gets added to the front fender Euro style, and the taillights get these new clear outer lenses, similar to the ones racers were swapping onto Civics and Integras back then, but unlike those atrocities, it actually kind of works on this Pilot. I don't mind this. Also, some new tech for 06, the navigation system now comes with a rear view camera. Inside, the center stack and radio climate control design is updated, as is the navigation unit, if so equipped, which now has a 7-inch screen. The instrument backlights are changed from that pleasing teal green color to boring white. Fog lights are now standard on EX and EXL trims, and VSA and brake assist is now standard to all trims. Your Pilot now has a maintenance minder system, which means when the maintenance light comes on, it now conveniently tells your service advisor what to upsell you. Don't look at me. I'm not the one saying you need a timing belt, spark plugs, and valve adjustment. It's your car that says it. You're not going to go against what your car wants, are you? In all seriousness, though, these are interference engines, so please don't skip your timing belt changes. This is also the first Pilot to be available without all-wheel drive. Both trims are now also available in front-wheel drive. The front-wheel drive version comes with Honda's new Variable Cylinder Management System, or VCM, which can deactivate cylinders 1 to 3 under light load conditions to increase fuel economy. Now, many of you are probably aware of the plug fouling issues the VCM system causes on second-gen Pilots, and we'll talk about that in the next chapter, but I'm actually not aware if that same issue happens on this generation or not, because in Canada, where I am, these Pilots are pretty much all-wheel drive. I don't think they even sold front-wheel drive ones here, so I don't have any experience with the VCM engine of this generation. You guys will have to let me know in the comments if it has the same issue or not. From 2006 on, the engine in the all-wheel drive version is the J35A9, and the front-wheel drive engine with VCM is the J35Z1. Now, despite what the power rating numbers on screen say, these engines themselves don't actually produce less power. It's just that the numbers have been changed to reflect the new SAE net power rating standard. There weren't any changes for 2007 except for a few new colors, but for the final 2008 model year, the LX model is rebadged as the VP model, which stands for value package. This new base model does actually add a few more standard features. It now has body colored mirrors and door handles, roof rails, and an upgraded 7-speaker audio system with an in-dash CD changer. They've also added a new special edition trim known as the SE, placed between EX and EXL trims. To the EX, the SE adds the moonroof, the DVD entertainment system, and the ambient console lighting. And that's your first-gen Honda Pilot. Honda's first crack at a mid-size 3-row SUV. It's got a lot going for it. It has a comfortable interior, and unlike some SUVs, handles more like a car than a truck. They are generally fairly reliable, and with a little maintenance, you can keep them going for a pretty long time. The second generation Pilot was initially revealed as a prototype model at the North American International Auto Show on May 22, 2008. It's not too different from the production model, it just has some more space-age looking taillights and headlights, and different center stack controls trimmed out in translucent blue. There are also these dual armrests in the center console instead of one big one, and different rear climate controls. Anyway, let's look at the production model. I know, it's a brick, but it's an SUV, it's supposed to be a brick. All the best ones are. It's about 3 inches longer than the previous generation, both in overall length and wheelbase, and this translates into more interior room with about 2 inches of extra legroom for that third row. The tailgate now has a glass hatch that can open separately, which is a very nice feature. Inside, it's got a simple 3-dial gauge design, a shifter on the center stack, and a plethora of buttons and switches to control the audio system, 3 climate zones, and the navigation if so equipped. There are now 4 trim levels: LX, EX, EXL, and Touring. Navigation only comes on the Touring model, but the rear entertainment system is an available option on EXL and Touring models. And yes, we've still got RCA inputs. Door handles and mirrors are black on the LX model, but body colored on EX and above. Mirrors are heated on EX and above, and have integrated turn signals on the Touring model. Body side moldings are black on the LX, body colored on both EX trims, and chrome on the Touring. Heated seats comes with with leather on EXL and Touring trims, and EXL and above also grants you a leather-wrapped steering wheel, auto-dimming rearview mirror, and what Honda calls a conversation mirror with sunglasses holder. Don't make me come back there! A power driver's seat comes on EX and above trims, and a power passenger seat on EXL and above. A moonroof is also an EXL and above feature. A rearview camera comes on EXL trims, but it displays the image in the rearview mirror, which is kinda small and lame, but I guess that's better than nothing. If you have the Touring model, then it will display it in the navigation screen. As far as cup holders go, there's a lot of them. Hi, I'll get 12 venti caramel frappuccinos. Right, Derek, on all of them. Roof rails, fog lights, and chrome exhaust finishers come on EX and above trims, and some other Touring exclusive features include second row window sunshades, a memory driver's seat, Bluetooth, a power tailgate, and parking sensors. Touring models and EXL models with the entertainment unit get a 115 volt AC plug in the center console, which is a nice convenience feature. Between this and the RCA inputs, I can now easily play my N64 inside my Pilot, although this might be a little small for GoldenEye split screen. Hey cheater, stop looking at my screen or I'm gonna unplug your controller. I said don't make me come back there! In the US, all trim levels are still sold in either front wheel drive or all wheel drive. I would assume most people in the US would have gone for the all wheel drive model as well, but you guys will have to tell me in the comments how common the front wheel drive ones are. All wheel drive models still use Honda's VTM4 system, and there is still a rear diff lock button on the dash, which works the same as the previous generation. The engine is now the J35Z4, and unfortunately, regardless of trim or drivetrain, they all have VCM now. As such, oil consumption and rear bank plug fouling is a pretty big issue on this generation. Enough to trigger lawsuits and warranty extensions, but they've all expired now. So probably best to disable the system, unless you feel like replacing piston rings or at least replacing the rear bank plugs over and over. Also, make sure you keep your oil topped up. J-series engines do burn oil, even the ones without VCM. It's interesting because if you read Honda's write-up on how VCM actually works, the system closes the intake and exhaust valves on the deactivated cylinders and cuts off fuel supply to them, but the spark plugs do continue to fire in order to, in Honda's own words, prevent temperature loss and plug fouling from incomplete combustion during cylinder reactivation. I guess that because these engines are prone to burning oil anyways, without a fuel supply and air mixture entering the deactivated cylinder, even with the plug firing, the oil is not going to burn. But hey, at least you're getting +1 miles per gallon in the city and a whole 2 on the highway over the 2008 non-VCM Pilot. Nothing really changes for the 2010 model year, but there are a few option changes for 2011. The rear entertainment system becomes standard on Touring models, and voice-activated navigation is now available as an option on the EXL. 2012 is the mid-model refresh year. The updated front end has a new grille and bumper, and slightly different headlight shapes that make it look a little less boxy. Inside, there's been a slight update to the look of the gauges, but most of the changes are in the center stack, with a change in layout to the positioning of many of the controls, and one change I like is that the climate-controlled temperature controls are now knobs instead of push buttons, which I think is much better. The trim levels are the same, but Bluetooth now comes on EX and above models, and the power tailgate is added to the EXL. Models with navigation now have a higher resolution screen and an upgraded rearview camera with 3 display modes. EX models without navigation get this multi-info display screen, which shows a variety of things like Bluetooth information, album artwork, and song information, and the backup camera will display in here as well. In 2013, the backup camera and the associated in-dash display screen become standard across all trim levels, as does Bluetooth and tri-zone auto climate control. For the final 2015 model year, Honda brings back the SE trim, again placed in between EX and EXL. And to the EX, it adds special 18-inch alloy wheels, the moonroof, satellite radio, and the DVD entertainment system. Second-gen Pilot is a pretty practical SUV, and it's still a pretty reliable vehicle if you can deal with that VCM plug fouling issue. Oh, but avoid the color white. Yeah, Honda paint quality really fell off in the 2000s, didn't it? Ha! You want to see poor build quality? Hold my beer. Remember those video trends from a few years back when creators were titling things like "The Day the Simpsons Died," and then the video would be about which season or even which specific episode of The Simpsons or whatever show they were making the video about marked the downturn of the show, after which point episodes became consistently worse and worse? Well, if I had to pick a day that Honda died, it would be June 18th, 2015, because that's the day the 2016 Honda Pilot went on sale. Excluding the 2015 Honda Fit, which actually isn't too bad of a vehicle, the 2016 Pilot was the first model of this new generation of Honda product to go on sale. The first vehicle of what I would call the dark era of Honda. The 2016 Civic went on sale in November and was later followed by the 5th Gen CR-V and the 10th Gen Accord, all vehicles which are a big step backwards in terms of reliability and build quality from their previous generations. Now, a lot of people like these models, I know, and I take a lot of flack in particular when I speak poorly of the 10th Gen Civic. I get it, a lot of people like it, and that's fine if you do. The point I'm trying to make is this Pilot essentially kicked off an era of Honda product that, in my opinion, is a pretty big step backwards in terms of quality and reliability compared to the previous few generations of product. Now, the golden era was already long over by 2016. That ended around 2001, give or take a year or two depending on the model. But at least the 2000s product and even the early 2010s product was still pretty good. And no, I don't just not like it because it's modern or because it's an auto or because it has a touchscreen, even though these infotainment systems are a disaster. They're just poorly built vehicles made with cheap materials priced way too high for what they are, and they come with a lot of pattern failures, some of them catastrophic. And the worst offender of this group is the one that started it all, the Honda Pilot. Now, I do understand why a lot of people like these. They're stylish for an SUV, they're definitely not boxy like the previous generation was. They're very well equipped, especially the upper models, and they're very comfortable to sit in and to drive. A lot of soccer moms, and frankly dads too, like it because it mostly just feels like driving a car, but you can fit all your kids in it. The seats and seating position is very comfortable. I don't like the gauge cluster because it's got a digital speedo, but I understand most people probably don't care about that.
Though it's also the source of our biggest complaint, and that is the lack of a traditional speedometer.
The climate controls are actually pretty decent. They aren't integrated into the infotainment unit like they are on 10th Gen Civics, thankfully, although like the Civic, the touchscreen infotainment unit has no volume knob, just a glitchy slider, which is frankly an unforgivable sin, but you will see later when we get to the mid-run update, Honda does address this because a lot of people complained about it. There are 5 trims this time: LX, EX, EXL, Touring, and the top trim is now called the Elite trim. We actually didn't get the Elite trim in Canada. Our top model is the Touring. I believe there was just some option packages you could add to it to make our Touring model Elite equivalent, although we did not get the panoramic glass roof. Door handles are black on the LX, body colored on the 2 EX trims, and chrome on Touring and Elite models. A power tailgate comes on EXL and above trims, and all US models except Elite can be had in front-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. Again, in Canada, they're all-wheel drive only. Honda calls this iteration of the all-wheel drive system IVTM4, which stands for Intelligent Variable Torque Management. Intelligence in vehicles basically means the computer is smart and you are dumb, so the computer will do everything for you. There is no more rear diff lock button on the dash, it's all automatic now, but there are different drive modes for snow, mud, sand, etc., and they do seem to work pretty well. All models are push-button start, and standard even to the LX now is 18-inch alloy wheels, a multi-angle rear-view camera, a tilt and telescoping steering column, Bluetooth, and USB audio inputs. Under the hood for all trim levels is a new direct-injected 3.5 liter with a pretty decent bump in power, now rated at 280 horsepower and 262 pound-feet of torque. These engines do still have VCM, but that's actually not an issue anymore on these. You don't typically see plug fouling or excessive oil consumptions on these engines. Direct injection sprays fuel directly into the combustion chamber as opposed to port injection, which would, as the name suggests, spray it into the intake port. Direct injection over multi-point injection does make more power and it is more efficient, but it's also more complex, therefore more expensive, and it's very prone to carbon buildup. But in the case of Honda, direct injection engines of this era, they have fuel injectors that are particularly prone to clogging up, and this is across all their models, so it's very common for them to need to be replaced. Pilots luckily do have a warranty extension good for 10 years or 150,000 miles, and there is a similar one in Canada. Now, I do have a theory that a factor compounding this problem is people putting cheap gas in their cars, which does not have the same detergents in it as like the big brands do, and this wasn't an issue pre-direct injection, but I think on direct injection vehicles in general, this causes issues. They really need those detergents. I wouldn't be filling up at Costco or Uncle Jack's Gas and Go. But that's nothing compared to the most catastrophic issue these J-Series engines have: damaged connecting rod bearings, which often leads to these engines needing to be replaced at very low mileages. I mean, what is this, a Hyundai or a Kia? This is something you'd expect from them. I thought Hondas were reliable.
False.
Now, yes, this is a recall, so in most cases the repairs are going to be covered. But it's a pretty massive recall, and it affects pretty much any Honda or Acura model with a V6 of this era. Now, the transmission on LX and both EX grades is a conventional 6-speed auto. I sure wish these 6-speed autos didn't have faulty torque converters though. I thought Hondas were reliable.
False.
Well, actually, it's not like their automatics haven't had problems before, let's be honest. But I mean, right off the bat here, we have common catastrophic failures of both the engine and the transmission. Tell me again how reliable you think modern Hondas are. The EX trim adds remote engine start, LED daytime running lights, fog lights, tri-zone auto climate control, some more USB ports, and you have the option to add Honda Sensing, a suite of driver's aid features. I think you guys already know how I feel about those. EXL gets you leather interior, heated front seats, a power moonroof, and a power passenger seat. The rear entertainment system and navigation system are available as options. The entertainment system now comes with an HDMI input in addition to RCA inputs, and there's still that AC outlet, so that's pretty cool. Step up to the touring model, and those pesky Honda Sensing features are now standard. You get an upgraded 10-speaker audio system, the navigation and entertainment systems are standard, and you get some pretty blue LED ambient lighting, more USB ports. You also get parking sensors, roof rails, and 20-inch alloy wheels. 20s?
Yo, where my wallets at? MV, Martha's Vineyard, holla back!
Most Honda customers do like the fancy 20-inch rims until the first time they have to buy a new set of tires. Honda owners can't afford 20s.
How dare you!
But the last thing the touring model adds is the most egregious: the 9-speed transmission and the push-button gear selector it comes with. What the hell do you need 9 gears for? It's more efficient and gets you better fuel mileage. Oh really? How much more efficient? Oh, come on. I guarantee any fuel savings you do get with this transmission will be counteracted by the cost of maintaining it, as fluid changes for these cost upwards of $600 at the dealer, in no small part because the fluid for these transmissions, which Honda calls their Type 3.1 ATF, is apparently liquid gold and retails for anywhere from around $30 to $60 a liter in Canada. Now, I believe this fluid is quite a bit cheaper in the US. I think you can get it for around $20 a quart. But you still need like 4 quarts just to do a basic drain and fill, so that's going to be about $80 in fluid at least. By comparison, Honda's conventional DW1 ATF fluid is like $9 a quart, so it's still double the price. The 9-speed transmission also doesn't have a dipstick, because how dare you think about servicing your vehicle yourself? Some of you with Stockholm Syndrome are going to tell me that's a smart design because the dipstick is where most of the contaminants get in. No, this is why they do it. Pfft. I ain't paying no dealer $500 just to change the transmission fluid. I can do that myself. Hey, where's the dipstick on this thing? There isn't one. You'll have to measure exactly how much you drain out, but make sure the fluid you put in is the same temperature as what you drain out. To correctly measure the ATF level, simply put the vehicle in VSA maintenance mode.
Forget it, I'll just pay the dealer to do it.
And you probably will have problems with the 9-speed transmission. These are, in my opinion, even worse than the 6 speeds. There is a warranty extension on 16 and 17 model years for ATF and coolant mixing in the ATF warmer, but that's not really even the most common issue with them. Many of them outside of that model year range will just fail internally, and it's common throughout all of the model years for them to have rough and delayed shifting, loss of power, acceleration delay, or sometimes even abrupt acceleration, because you push down the accelerator and I don't know, the transmission has to think for a few seconds and decide if it feels like moving.
Watch it, Margaret!
I'm sorry, Margaret. I can't do that. But hey, you are getting that 1 extra miles per gallon of fuel economy. Touring and elite pilots with the 9-speed also come with auto idle stop, which is a ridiculous feature. They're mostly for placebo effect. You can turn it off, there's a button, but the annoying thing is it defaults to on every time you start the vehicle, so you have to turn it off every time you drive. These vehicles also did have an issue where the auto stop would shut the car off and then not be able to restart, but there is a software update recall that usually does fix it, updating the software so it's a little bit smarter about not shutting the engine off if the battery doesn't have enough charge to restart it. I guess since this update does seem to be pretty effective at fixing it, we'll call this issue resolved, but this is still a terrible feature that puts unnecessary wear and tear on the starter motor and the battery. Turn this feature off if your vehicle has it. Now, in regards to the 9-speed transmission issues I've talked about, some people are going to say, oh well, it's lack of maintenance, these people aren't doing enough fluid changes, etc. No, I've seen plenty of these issues on customer vehicles who've done all their fluid changes on time, and I've even seen these things fail before the first fluid change even comes due. And if you're going to be telling me that people need to service these transmissions even more often than the service schedule already calls for, which is every 30,000 miles, if that's not enough, that's reason not to buy this piece of junk right there. Might I remind you the cost of these fluid changes? I thought Hondas were reliable.
Oh, God. False.
And yes, I know the 9-speed transmission wasn't built by Honda. It's a ZF transmission. It's also used in some Land Rover models, the Fiat 500X, some Jeep and Chrysler models, I think. Well, shit, if Chrysler and Land Rover use it, then it must be good. Seriously though, who cares who built it? It's in the car and it sucks. Okay, finishing up 2016. Last, we have the Elite model, also 9-speed only. To the Touring model, it adds blind spot monitoring with cross-traffic alert. Honestly, the one driver's aid feature I actually kind of like, so unfortunate that it only comes on the Elite model. You also get rain-sensing windshield wipers, the panoramic roof, automatic high beams, a heated steering wheel, heated and ventilated seats, and heated second-row captain's chairs, which does mean this model can only carry 7 passengers, not 8. In 2017, Honda adds Apple CarPlay and Android Auto to EX and above trims, and also upgrades the touchscreen with a more fingerprint-resistant coating. I don't believe they changed anything substantial for 2018, but 2019 is our mid-model update year. Like I mentioned earlier, the updated infotainment unit now is a proper volume knob, so good on Honda for listening and learning on that one. They've also updated the gauge cluster, and now we've been stripped of our analog tack, banished to the digital realm of laggy screens it has been. I know, no one buying a Pilot in 2019 gives a hoot about that. I guess RCA ports are considered outdated now as they've been removed from the entertainment system. I know, no kids riding in the back of a 2019 Pilot have ever even heard of an RCA cable. Tell me you're a millennial without telling me you're a millennial. On the new front end, we have a new bumper and grille design, and on the back, the turn signals are changed from red to clear lenses with amber bulbs, and the reverse lights are moved up from the bumper into the tailgate, and they're also now LED. I don't know, I kind of liked the uniform red tail lights before, although the new LED reverse lights are certainly much brighter, which is nice. I don't like these new wheels with the black inside and the silver face, which is common across a lot of newer models now. It's just not my style, although I do realize it does hide the brake dust better for all those Pilot owners that never wash their own cars. Why should I have to wash it? I just own it. The fact that those wheels don't stay clean without me touching them, I'm writing Honda a strongly worded letter about that. The Honda sensing stuff is standard on all trim levels now, and the blind spot monitoring with cross traffic is standard to all but the LX trim. Elite models now have auto dimming power folding mirrors, and Touring and Elite models have a feature where one side view mirror will tilt down when you shift in reverse, so you can see what's behind you. You can control which side mirror does this by where your power mirror adjustment switch is set. If it's set to the left mirror will tilt and vice versa. If you don't want either mirror to tilt, just set the switch in the middle. You will find that center position most useful when the mirror motors break and just start pointing up at the sky every time you shift into reverse. Touring and Elite models now have a kick sensor for the power tailgate, so you can in theory open it like with 2 hands full of groceries, but I don't find that it's a very user-friendly feature because it's pretty picky about where you put your foot and the motion you have to make for it to work. I don't know, I usually embarrassed myself when I tried to show customers how it worked, but maybe that's a me thing.
But it's a real simple solution that will alleviate those struggles, and it's just a matter of being patient.
Patient? What are you talking about? I'm not at the hospital. Hurry up, let's go.
The bottom of the bumper with your foot. In fact, there's a sticker right here on the liftgate itself that gives you instructions on how to do this. All you're gonna do is just do that, and see that it opens.
All right, well, he makes it look easy. Perhaps I'm the idiot on this one. You guys can let me know if you think that feature works well or not. I would rather just have a sensor where you touch the back emblem with the back of your hand or something, instead of doing aerobics on one foot like an idiot. For 2020, Honda adds a black addition to the top of the Pilot lineup. It's an Elite trim, but everything's black and very orange peeled. The trim is black, the 20s are black, the clear coat swirls if you even breathe on it. Inside you get red ambient lighting, and there's also red stitching on the first and second row seats, steering wheel, and door panels, which does look pretty cool. For 2021, the dreaded 9-speed becomes standard on all trim levels, so there's no escaping the push buttons or the delayed acceleration now. I haven't even talked about in this video yet how stupid push button selector transmissions are in general. I think I did bring this up in my MDX video, but basically my main issue with them is what happens if you have a dead battery, or you have some electrical problem and lose power, or the computer just decides to brick itself, which happens on modern cars. And then you can't put it in neutral to either push it somewhere safe Or get it loaded onto a tow truck. Like, what if the vehicle is dead in a parkade, for example, where a flatbed can't fit? Conventional shifter models always had this manual override switch that you could push in your center console, usually with a key or a pin or something, but you can't do that with these. Now, yes, there is a way to put it in neutral manually, of course, but you have to go in through the engine bay and use like a 7mm deep socket and a long extension, so I hope you have one with you. Anyways, you turn it counterclockwise and then you got to pin the ratchet against something like this guy is doing here. This is on an MDX, but pretty much the same thing. Make sure you put your e-brake on if you're on a hill though, so the vehicle doesn't roll you over. Thankfully, that's at least not electric on these things. To me, this is just so unsafe. What if the vehicle dies in the middle of an intersection? Which, by the way, is actually pretty likely to happen if you haven't had the auto idle stop recall done. And I know someone's going to say, well, it's not like soccer moms would be able to push a pilot off the road themselves anyway. And that's true, but people could stop to help her if she wasn't in one of these things. But now she just has to sit there and block traffic until help comes. This kind of thing really baffles me in modern vehicles, because modern vehicles are apparently all about safety. They brake for you, they turn for you. Some vehicles won't even shift into drive if your seatbelt isn't on or if your tire pressure is too low. There's like 30 airbags, but then they have nonsense like this where the average person can't even put the vehicle in neutral in an emergency. There should always be a way that any driver can put a vehicle into neutral manually without power from inside the car. That's the whole reason they put these shift lock overrides in vehicles in the first place. And no, it wasn't a good idea when Chrysler used push buttons in the 50s either. Anyways, also in 2021, Honda adds back the special edition trim. This time it's between EXL and Touring. And to the EXL it adds 20-inch black wheels. So, why are we putting these on family SUVs? It's so unpractical. Everyone just ends up curbing them or blowing out their tire because they drive over too big of a bump or a pothole that they think the vehicle will handle because it's an SUV. Well, not with low-profile 20s you can't do that. Sorry, ma'am. That'll be $400 for one new tire.
Not a worry for me. I bought the tire protection insurance for $3,500.
You what? Do you realize how many tires you could have bought for that? Forget it. All right, what else does the SC get you? Roof rails, a black grille, the line dance tailgate sensor, and a wireless charger. 2022, LX and EX trims are gone and replaced by a new Sport trim as the entry-level model. It's mostly comparable to what the EX was, but it's got the black grille and trim like the Special Edition. There's also a new Trail Sport model as sort of an off-road oriented trim. Oh my gosh, I swear if the off-road trim has low-profile 20s, I'm gonna lose it. Okay, it doesn't have low pros. I mean, truthfully though, would it matter? Do any modern Honda Pilot owners ever leave pavement? Hello, I'd like 14 caramel frappuccinos, please. Let me guess, all for Derek? No, I'm his brother Dan. Derek had a heart attack for some reason. So as far as off-road capability goes, besides the tires, the Trail Sport adds a whole 0.6 inches of ground clearance and, well, that's it. But you do also get these horrendously cheap-looking plastic fender flares and this Trail Sport badge. So you can point at it in the office parking lot and brag to your coworkers that you once drove on a gravel road with it. It was so intense, there weren't even any streetlights. I don't mean to say I'm a thrill seeker, ladies, but it was so dark I had to turn my high beams on manually. My wrist is still sore from it, actually. I'd never used that turn stock before. What about your turn signals? What are turn signals? The Trail Sport model also has leather interior with orange stitching, which actually does look pretty good, and a power moonroof, which, to quote from the press release, brings the great outdoors a little closer. Because they know their customers aren't actually going to go outside. If they were, then they would have bought a Toyota.
How dare you!
And that's the third gen Pilot. There are plenty of other less severe issues with them too. I mean, some models have had like 10 or 11 recalls, although that's kind of normal with modern cars now. And there's another really annoying common problem with them where the keyless access control unit likes to glitch out and set the alarm off randomly for no reason. I've also seen it turn the headlights on and off until the battery dies. And I've seen them not start because there was a water leak in one of the tail lights. But I've also seen that on Accords from this era, and honestly, that's kind of just a new car reality. All computer modules are connected to each other, and if one's unhappy, they're all unhappy. Yes, I know these Pilots are still better than some other modern vehicles out there. I'm not saying they're the worst cars on the market, but a lot of people buy Hondas because of their reputation and because they believe they're going to be reliable and cheap to maintain. They are not, and they haven't been since June 18th, 2015, the day Honda died. Well, if anyone is still watching after my unhinged annihilation of the 3rd gen, it's time to talk about the current generation of Pilot. Is it any better? Well, truthfully, it's too early to tell. We're just barely into its 3rd year. Most of them are still within warranty, it's a new platform, so we just don't know how long-term reliable it's going to be yet. It would certainly be hard for it to be any worse. There's only been 5 recalls so far, which sadly isn't bad for a modern vehicle. The styling on this thing, it's pretty bland.
Bland? Don't you know this Pilot looks rugged? That's what all the journalists are saying.
Rugged. Yeah, well, I read the press release too. I guess the CRV is also rugged because it's got the exact same front end.
The CRV is rugged and sophisticated.
Oh, is it now? The interior, I feel like I've talked about this interior a million times, but that's because I've already made videos on the Civic, the CRV, the Accord, the Prelude, and the Integra. Doesn't matter what new Honda you get in, they all have this interior. Sure, we can point out the minutiae differences. The Civic has honeycomb, the Integra has diamonds, the Pilot has this padded thing, the Prelude has a convenient label so you don't forget where you are. But I do like the new climate controls Honda is using now. 3 simple dials and some push buttons not connected to the infotainment unit, just the way it should be. And these climate dials, when you turn them, they actually feel high quality. And I don't say that often about anything you touch in a modern Honda, but these climate controls actually are very nice. Overall, this interior looks pretty bland if you've got a lower trim, it's all just one color, but you can get some pretty nice contrasting colors on the upper trims. Here's an Elite trim with like a chocolate brown leather color. Man, if this interior had a proper gauge cluster and gear selector, then we might be onto something here.
Oh my god, it's so rugged.
Yeah, the gear selector is still push buttons, and now the e-brake is electric too. So if this thing bricks and you have to put it into neutral manually, I guess you better block the tires first, because if the e-brake isn't engaged when the car dies, you won't have a way to put it on. On the other hand, if it is on when the thing's bricked, then when you load it on a flat deck, you'll just be dragging the back wheels. And I know someone is typing right now, "Oh, you idiot, you just put a jump pack on it." And yes, that usually is all you have to do. But sometimes the computer module can short out, or you have some weird electrical problem, and you might not be able to get power even with a jump pack. Not saying it happens every day, but it does happen, I've seen it. And there's just no need for that to even be a possibility. Cable e-brakes and mechanical shift linkage worked fine for 70 years. What are the actual advantages of this all being electronic and lacking physical connections with anything? Let me know in the comments if you can think of anything. The transmission is a 10-speed now, and it's made by Honda. It seems better so far, although it's still kinda laggy, but I guess time will tell. I will say the 10 speeds use Honda ATF Type 2.0 fluid, which is not nearly as expensive as the 3.1 stuff, so that's good to see. The new engine is the first dual overhead cam J-series we've seen in a Honda product. It's not quite the first dual overhead cam J-series in general, because the turbo J30AC and the TLX and MDX Type S was dual overhead cam as well, and that one came first. But despite the extra cams, the J35Y8 doesn't really make much more power over last year, rated at 285 horsepower and 262 pound-feet of torque, although it does achieve that at a lower RPM. Maybe it's more efficient, maybe it'll be stronger. The J35Y6 set a pretty low bar. You can pretty much do a shuffle walk and step over it, so hopefully this one will set a higher standard. In the US, there are 7 trims for 2023. I'm not kidding, 7. LX, Sport, EXL, EXL 7 passenger. I guess that means it has the captain's chairs. I don't know why that needs to be its own trim. Trail Sport, Touring, and Elite. We have a very simplified trim lineup in Canada, just Sport, EXL, Trail Sport, Touring, and Black Edition. Again, it's all-wheel drive in Canada. In the US, you could get everything except Trail Sport and Elite in front-wheel drive if you so choose. Some all-wheel drive models now have 7 different drive modes, and Honda advertises that this is their most capable off-road SUV to date. And they have done more to the Trail Sport trim this time other than just badging and more ground clearance. The intelligent VTM system has a trail mode, which engages what Honda calls trail torque logic. It's able to detect when one side of an axle loses ground contact and transfer up to 75% of available power to the individual tire with the most traction, as well as keep a small amount of torque on the non-contact wheel so it can immediately re-engage drive force when it touches down. Aside from a 1-inch lift over other Pilot trims, the Trail Sport also has steel skid plates to protect the oil pan, transmission, and a gas tank that can apparently support the entire weight of the vehicle crashing down on a rock. For boots, the Trail Sport wears features Conti all-terrains with 18s and inset spokes actually designed to avoid trail damage. Don't worry, Pavement Princess, the Sport, Touring, and Elite models still roll 20s. The Trail Sport model also comes with a full-size spare, something you don't see too often anymore these days. Another thing this thing has is called a Trail Watch camera. When you're in trail mode, this system will come on automatically at speeds of 15 miles an hour or lower. It uses 4 cameras to give you a view of your surroundings that you simply won't be able to see from inside the vehicle. I mean, hey, if you're gonna have a bunch of cameras on the vehicle, this is a good way to utilize them. Finally, smart use of modern tech on a vehicle. Of course, you've got all your normal silly driver's aid features across most of the trims too. There's a new thing called hill descent control, and it operates between speeds of 2 to 12 miles per hour when you're going down a hill, and it maintains a set speed so you can set it somewhere in that range, and it will maintain it for you by activating the brakes as needed itself, so you don't have to suffer that horrible ankle strain that would otherwise result. But I'll tell you another nice feature they added to this Pilot that I actually do like, a rear camera washer. So when you activate the rear window washer, there's a second nozzle that does the rear camera too. That is very useful, especially in the winter. Power tailgate comes on EXL and above trims, as does the leather interior with heated front seats and heated mirrors and that reverse tilt down feature. The mirrors on Trail Sport and above trims are also power folding, and Elite trims give you LED puddle lights. Elite trims also add ventilated front seats and heated second row seats. Trail Sport models gets you the orange stitching again, and you get accent piping on Elite trim seats. Trail Sport and Elite trims get the heated steering wheel. The panoramic moonroof now comes on Trail Sport, Touring, and Elite trims. The infotainment screen is 7 inches on LX and Sport models and 9 inches on all the other trims. Most trims have this half-screen gauge cluster with an analog speedo, but Elite trims give you this full-screen cluster and a heads-up display. For 2025, the Pilot is rugged and adds back the Black Edition to the US market. They dropped the LX model as well as the 7-passenger EXL. The only 7-passenger model now is the Trail Sport. Touring, Elite, and Black Edition models do have second-row captain's chairs, but then there's a middle hideaway seat similar to like what Odysseys have. As usual, the Black Edition adds blacked out badging and trim, red stitching, red accent lighting, and glossy black 20s, all for the low price of $55,000. Now for this year, 2026, the Pilot gets a cosmetic refresh, and now inside, you get a larger infotainment screen. They moved the volume knob off it to just below, I guess to make room to widen the touchscreen, and all trim levels now have the full screen digital instrument cluster. Really? Does this look rugged to you? You'll never convince me this wasn't the best Pilot cluster. Apple CarPlay and Android Auto now work wirelessly, a power tailgate is now standard across all trims, the Trail Sport model now gets heated rear outboard seats, and the 360 surround view camera is extended down to the Touring models. On the front, there's a new bumper and grille. It's an improvement. Gives it a little more character. I do like it more on the Trail Sport model because the grille is gray to match that bumper piece. And actually, paired with this new ash green metallic color, it looks, say it. No, it looks handsome. Ruggedly handsome? They didn't change anything on the back. I don't know what the hell these wheels are supposed to be, and that's where we're at with the Pilot. Please subscribe. Bye.